Right.
Okay, cool. So, to start, John, how many times have you competed at the CrossFit Games?
This year was my 5th trip.
That is amazing. Amazing, amazing. So
2014, 17, 18, 22, and 23.
that is awesome. So you were in the 60 to 64 division when you started.
No, I was in 55 to 59.
You were 55 to 59. Then, my cat, you
Hi,
went to,
yeah, I was, so
into,
in
okay.
2014, I was 57. And then that was the 55 group. And then in 17 and 18, I was 60 and 61.
Okay.
And then this year I was 65 and 66. You know.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that's, I'm assuming you didn't start your fitness journey at 57 years of age.
No,
Can you tell me, when or how you started your fitness journey?
So, I started, I've always been, athletic and stuff like that. But when I got in my early 20s, I kind of let it all go a little bit. And it wasn't until I was in about 34, 35, and I was getting ready for my black belt, my Taekwondo black belt test, 1st degree black belt test. And I had read a book that said, if you want to get more flexible, you have to get stronger. That strong muscles are more flexible. So I said, okay, got to go to the gym. So I hired a trainer, did personal training, and I just started going to the gym, just kind of like everybody else, highs and tries and backs and, leg day and this, that, the same that we all did. Right. And that's where I started. And I got to be like just kind of a gym rat, so every day I made it after the trainer and I were done. We'd get to the gym, and I just kept going that way. And then in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, I participated in something called the Ultimate Black Belt Test. And part of that Ultimate Black Belt Test had to do with physical things that you needed to do. And it was like, you have to do 1,000 push-ups, and you have to do this, that, but it was over a long period of time. So that's a big deal, right? I mean, I think it was like 22 months or something, right? It's like no big deal.
Okay.
50 a day, yeah. But I took it to like the next level, and I ended up doing 500,000 push-ups over 22 months. So I was doing like 1,000 a day at the end. And I was doing push-ups. I can remember doing push-ups on the airplane, right? In the aisle of the airplane. And like I'd be done, it'd be like 11 o'clock at night, and I'd have to roll out of bed because I forgot to do, 100 push-ups. I was 100 short, so I'd have to roll out of bed, and then first thing in the morning, 100, it's like, it was crazy. They weren't the best push-ups in the world, so they certainly would be no reps, all day long. But that's what we're doing. And so then I added in pull-ups on that and stuff like that. So that started that. Well, one of the challenges of the Ultimate Black Belt Test was to be in the best shape of your life, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm in my late 40s, early 50s. And it's like, what's that going to take, right? So we started looking around at how to get more fit. And we actually found, of course, first, Pavel, the crazy Russian with the kettlebell.
Yeah.
Right? So we started doing a bunch of kettlebell stuff. Well, that led to, what's his name? Mark Twight at Jim Jones, right? Well, Mark Twight and Greg Glassman and Rob Wolf, all those guys back in the day were, a cohort. And of course they aren't now, but so we found him at Jim Jones. Well, at that time, Jim Jones, you couldn't go to Jim Jones. It was closed gym, right? You had to have an invite. You had to be an Alpineer or somebody special to get in that place. They weren't like, now you can get there. Now they publish their workouts, stuff like that. At that point, it was like, we're too special for that or something. But that led us to CrossFit. So that's how I found CrossFit. And I think that was in 2008 or something like that. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say that would have been really early. Yeah, because those guys were doing a lot of like part of the seminars and stuff, 2006, 7, 8. Yeah.
So in 2008, we started, looking at CrossFit and CrossFit.com and all of that, and started doing some CrossFit stuff just kind of on our own. Well, in 2010, I got my level 1, started, doing some training and had a little fitness component in my martial arts school, because I'd had a martial arts school that now for 10 or 20 years. And so we started doing that. Well, Ellie, my current business partner, was working for me. She was teaching kickboxing. We were doing kickboxing classes and stuff like that. So she moved back to Dallas. And a couple of years later, called me and said, hey, I got a guy, he's got a space. I don't know if it'll work for a CrossFit gym. Why don't you come look at it? So I came out to Dallas, and this was in 2013. And he looked at the space, said, yeah, it'll work. And he said, hey, you should come and do this yourself. I was at a juncture at that point in my life where, I was ready to get out of Nevada. So I came to Dallas, and we opened CrossFit Odyssey in 2013. And at that point, because in 2012, I had done my first CrossFit Open.
Okay.
And I had finished in like 51 or 2 in the, pretty well. But at that point, now that I was 55. In the age group division 55 to 59, I think there were only 600 guys total, right?
Yeah.
But I finished in 50, so top, 10%. Which is really interesting, because we'll talk about some other numbers here in a second. But so it's the thing about it is that I finished pretty well, and a friend of mine had visited a CrossFit gym and talked to them and said, like, that's your guy? He's pretty good at this. If this is his first time, this is pretty good, right? So I said, I looked at all the numbers and did, crunch things. I said, if I get 20% better, I could go to the CrossFit Games. So from 2012 to 2013, I worked my ass off. I didn't have a coach. I wasn't going to a regular CrossFit gym. I just had my own thing. I was, I was working out at my martial arts school, which had these little itty bitty mats. I had metal plates, dropping stuff, trying to do cleans. It was, unmitigated disaster, really. So then 2013 comes, like, do the Open. I'm excited. I know I'm going to just kick butt, right? Well, I ended up like 30th or 32nd, 33rd. What I didn't figure was that everybody else would get 20% better. And I'd be a year older, and a whole bunch of guys would be a year younger in there. I'm like, wait a second. So now I'm pissed, right? So I got to hire a coach. So I'm looking for who's doing remote coaching. Well, in 2013, there weren't very many choices. CJ at Invictus and a couple other people, and I couldn't even tell you.
The one in California, the cowboy one. Everyone used to talk about them. That was one we used to use sometimes. It was West something. Or cowboy something.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember.
California.
I don't know. But anyway, so we looked. I looked around, talked to a couple, 3 people, and I really liked CJ, and he was very realistic. And I said, look, I got to work out by myself. I can't really get to a gym and stuff like that. He's like, dude, everybody who's any good at this works out by themselves. It's just the way it is. You're just going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to push yourself. I actually talked to a guy named Jim Fitzgerald. He was at UNR, University of Nevada, Reno. And he was there. They had a CrossFit gym there. And I said, hey, because he'd been to the games in like 8 or 9. He said, and I said, why don't you train me? He said, no, I don't have time. I can't do it. He said, but this is what you do. Do hatch squat. Just do that. And when you finish that, then just start squatting again and add 5 pounds, every week or something, right? So I did that. And he also said, if you want to get good at double unders, it's an EDD every damn day. You do double.
Totally.
Yeah. So he kind of got me going that way. I was visiting different CrossFit gyms in the Reno, Northern Nevada area. And so CJ started writing programming for me, right, in 2013. And then at that point, right after the Open, I started working with Tino Marini, right, there at Invictus, and he started writing programming for me. And in the summer of 2013, I moved to Dallas, and we opened CrossFit Odyssey in the fall of 13. So tomorrow we're doing our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So that's exciting. So anyway, 2014 Open comes around. I finished well. Looks like I'm going to go to the games, but that's the year they decided they should have the next level, right? The quarterfinal. And it wasn't the quarterfinal then; it was the age group qualifier, right? Oh, what a disaster that was, right? Because I didn't expect that. Nobody expected that. It's like, okay, I'm in the top 20. Boom, we're going, right? I think I can't even remember what I was, but it was, 12th or something like that. I could look it up. But so this qualifier comes, and we got to go to different gyms to get it done and all this stuff. I ended up doing every workout twice, just absolutely killed myself. One of the workouts, when I reviewed the video, missed like 3 double unders or something. And at that point, we were all under the impression that 3, you're disqualified, right? You're not, it's not like we're going to penalize. They had no penalty stuff, right? It was like, it's either right or you're not, you're out, right? So I had to go back and redo the whole workout for like 2 or 3 double unders.
It was such a pain in the ass.
It was horrible, right? But I did, and I managed somehow to qualify 20th. I was the last qualifier in 2014.
Awesome.
Which, in retrospect, was really cool because the first workout in the 2014 games was a deadlift ladder. So I'm the guy, because number 20 goes first. I'm the guy standing at the front of the line, and the announcers had nothing to say except about me, because I'm the only guy they can see, right? Everybody else is behind. So it was pretty cool. So if you were to review that, video, it's kind of nice. But so anyway, I finished really, well, and Tino helped a lot. I was, he couldn't be there that year, but my listed deadlift max was 355. I hit 405, tried 4 1/4. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So in 2014, I actually finished 6th, right? Which was, and we had, and actually Tino and CJ had told us to hire Dutch Lowy, who had Black Box in Fort Worth, Black Box CrossFit. And so we went and did Olympic lifting with him for all fall and winter of 2013 before we went to the games, right? So that was a big help as well. But he's really been the only, besides Ellie, the only in-person coach I've had, right?
Yeah.
So 2014, and we're, ended up 6th, which was really good. And I mean, Tino even said, he said, you weren't even supposed to be there, dude. It's like, let alone 6th.
They called him the black horse.
Yeah. I mean, I was a complete dark horse on the thing. And we were, again, in retrospect, when we look back at how we were training back in 2014, all we were doing was the same thing everybody else was doing, but maybe just a little bit less weight. I was so beat up. I mean, I don't even remember how I got through the whole thing, but I remember going into it, just going, I don't even know how I can do this. And, my body is a disaster at this point. And so now here we are, all these years later, almost 10 years later, we were, we're so much smarter in terms of volume and how we're adding things in, and it's just so much better,
I was going to ask you, what do you think has been the change as far as like how you approach recovery from 2014 to now?
Yeah. Well, in 2014, nobody talked about recovery.
Totally.
We just didn't do it, right? I mean, I used to go to the place called Kinetic Chain where they do, needling and all of that kind of stuff. And I was over there like every week, and they were treating me for free. It was very nice of them, and they still do actually. But they, other than that, there was not a lot of recovery. I mean, we were talking about how much you sleep. There's some nutritional stuff, but not much. But no, it just wasn't existent. Nobody really talked about it. And the volume was pretty much the same as, a guy who's 25 or 18, maybe I wasn't, cleaning 225, but I was doing the same number of sets and the same number of reps.
And percentage based off of what your percentages. Yeah, totally. Totally.
So the recovery part of it has been, I think, one of the biggest changes, along with some of the dial back on that, which again speaks to recovery, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I started doing when you asked before we started recording this, I'm doing GoWOD 15 minutes a day, every day, right? Except Monday.
Awesome.
I'm doing that every day.
All right.
And I'm starting to feel a lot better in certain places, right?
That is awesome.
Yeah. And I think overall, when I look at the fitness world these days, I think that, I mean, there's obviously some outliers out there that are just crazy people.
Yeah.
I think the fitness world is much smarter than it was 10 years ago, like by leaps and bounds. When I listen to a guy like the Squat University guy, right? And what the knees over toes guy, right? There's these guys that are like super smart about all of this stuff. And they're doing things that, if we'd had been doing them 10 years ago, everybody'd be so much further along.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Or less, just less injury, or, even just being more in tune to your body and knowing, like, instead of just like pounding it with volume, recognizing recovery is going to be way more beneficial for your session.
And again, from my own standpoint, knowing when to stop.
Yes.
I mean, you could ask, Tino could tell you, he said, I never quit, right? What do you mean you got hurt and then you kept going? You did another round. You did the Metcon anyway, even though you like broke your finger. Are you nuts? Because that happened when
This is the thing.
I'm doing handstand walking. I caught my finger, and you could hear it snap across the room. I just straightened it out, taped it up, and kept going.
Yeah.
And then he was doing the one of the CrossFit qualifier workouts one year, and he pulled his hamstring, and it is like black and blue. And he did the workout, and I was like, I don't think this is really a good idea.
I think
let's look at the big picture.
Yeah. I think in general, I feel like that's kind of been the shift, even with just CrossFitters as a whole. That has definitely been a shift. Like, this is not going to benefit me in the long run, or even like my more immediate goals. If I'm injured. Yeah. Totally. Even down to tears, it used to be such
tears.
like, it was like a cool thing to have hand tears, and now it's like, absolutely not. You can't train.
Right. Exactly. What are you doing? Yeah. Just
totally.
Can't just put some tape on it and get back on there.
Yes, totally.
In 2014, again, it was at Staples Center in Southern California there. And the masters were all outside in the parking lot, or not in the parking lot, but in the outside venue. And the warm-up area was in the outside venue. And I can remember there was a workout on the rig, and those bars had been sitting out in the sun all day. And people were coming off the bars, and their entire palm, it was just coming off. I mean, it was like, it was horrible, right? And then there was one of the last workouts was a burpee workout. I think it was a burpee and a sandbag clean or something. Those mats were so hot.
Yeah.
I mean, every time you hit the mat, there was no breath at the bottom. There was nothing. It was like, get your ass off of there, because it was so hot. Yeah. And luckily we didn't have to do that many burpees, but it was horrible.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing we wouldn't do that today. I mean,
No.
I mean, this year they moved the 5K back because it was 85 degrees, right? It was
totally.
Which those of us in Texas kind of laughed a little bit.
But I was even going to say, even like for some of the field events this year, on that turf, they briefed everybody, do not lay down on it. Whatever you do when you get to the end. And they had people there cooling people down with water. They had the fans. Yeah, it is just, it's so much more like advantageous for even just longevity of the weekend and people being able to recover and not have like heat stroke and stuff. Yeah. It's been much, much more, they've learned throughout the process. You've just figured things out much,
exactly.
Much different than it had been.
Yeah. And so anyway, my fitness journey, that's where we ended up is in 2014. And then, I kept training with Tino, I think until 18.
Okay. That's when.
That's where we stopped, because when I went in 18, and again, this wasn't smart. I mean, you know, I had to go to the doctor. I had to get cortisone in my shoulder, cortisone in my knee. Came home, had 2 or 3 surgeries, and I'm like, I'm done. Completely done with this thing. This isn't smart. This isn't going to serve me, you know, down the road. My body's falling apart, right? So dialed it all back. I started following, you know, the Masters program that you guys put together back then, and just kind of dialed back. And it wasn't until 2020, and then we had the pandemic, and then all screwed up and everything. But in 22, so not this year, but the year before, I was just kind of fooling around. I said, well, we'll do the open, you know, I'm not really serious. And I'd been doing a bunch of the long, slow distance stuff, right?
Yeah,
and
we had done a bunch of
you know,
zone 2.
Yeah. And so I won the freaking open.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, I win the open, right? And I'm like, what? That's not that. No, that doesn't happen, right? And then, you know, I ended up 3rd out of the semifinal, ended up 2nd on the, you know, podium finish, first time ever. I'm like, okay, you know. And the same thing in 23. I wasn't really training for the games, you know, that wasn't the idea. And so, boom, you know, I'm in it again, right? And qualified, you know, 4th. No, you know, so that was, you know, so that's been now the next iteration is, you know, we're doing the long, slow distance stuff. We're doing a lot more recovery stuff. A lot, you know, like I said, I started this Go Watt thing, you know, and really dialing back and really working more on strict things. And that's something that somebody talk to you or Travis or somebody about, you know, getting a strict muscle up, getting a strict bar muscle up, all of those things, and really working on that stuff, and less of the dynamic stuff, you know, the shoulders and, you know, even the kipping pull-ups. I mean, I rarely do butterfly pull-ups in a workout these days because of the pressure on the shoulders.
The wear and tear, yeah.
I'll do it every once in a while just to keep the rhythms and stuff like that. But I don't want to tear it up, you know. So
totally. Well, like I said, it's awesome because you are so in tune to your body and your needs, and then truly taking time off, which doesn't mean not working out, not training, but taking the intensity down after competitions. And that's something that I think it's hard for people, because usually when they come off of a competition, they're so amped. They want to keep training. The adrenaline's high, but that is the time to, you're not going to make any gains. We want that adrenaline to be there closer to lead up for a qualifier.
You're already set for tomorrow, but
things like that. And so you're doing that, which is very, very smart.
Yeah. And then in 2014, that's the same exact thing. I got out. I mean, I went back on Monday morning. I might have even gotten back on Saturday or Sunday. I'm like, I'm going to kill this thing next year. I'm going to kill it. You know, it's like, and it was the worst thing I could have done. I mean, it's just stupid, because my body just went straight down.
Totally. Yeah. It's not sustainable, that like power output, that competitive mindset isn't sustainable year after year, all year long. That's why there should be, you know, different cycles, different focuses during a true off season. So what would your advice be for anybody in your age groups thinking about wanting to compete? What would be like your, you know, top pieces of advice for them?
So my top pieces of advice for somebody who wanted to get started to compete, if they were already, you know, let's assume that they're already relatively fit, right? And they just want to start competing. So I would start with local and, you know, smaller kinds of competitions, because competing isn't training, right?
Totally.
Training is training, right? I mean, that you are doing things, right? Competing now requires me to be more tactical, right? I have to have a plan. I have to implement the plan. I have to stick to the plan in the face of, you know, no reps and equipment failures and stuff happening, you know, all of that stuff that happens. And then, you know, you also have to have the ability to ramp up to, you know, turn the dial to 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Training, it's rare that you should be at 10, right? I mean,
totally.
You know, 8 maybe on a, if you're really hitting it hard, but not a 10. I mean, rare. Okay. So that's number one is kind of go out there and really feel like, oh yeah, I really want to compete. Right. Like, and I would do other things too, like run 5K, you know, and compete in that. Right. And because it's not just this thing, right? This thing is a whole bunch of other things. Go to, you know, an Olympic weightlifting meet and compete. Competition is a mindset, right? It's not just show up, do work, and go home. You have to train your mind to get in there and want to be not just full effort, but, you know, there's a, you know, I'm going to eat what I kill kind of thing, right?
Mentally locked in.
Right.
It's a different mindset you go to.
Right. Yeah. It's just, and not everybody is going to be good at that. Not everybody wants to do that. And honestly, as I get older, I find myself like, why? Right. I'm like, you know, I don't really, you know, and so like I rarely do any competitions, you know, during the year. I mean, I'll do the open and all that stuff, and then get to the games, great. But I'm not doing, you know, I'm not trying to go to Wadapalooza. And for a while I said, well, I should do this or go to the Granite Games or go there. And I'm like, no, I got a business to run. I got a family. I got stuff going on, you know, and I don't want to do that. Right. But so that's number one, is to get out and compete a little bit, right? In a different number of different things, right? If you're a swimmer, go to a swim meet. They have masters swim meets. You know, and these days there's masters track and field. There's all kinds of places that you can find an outlet for your competitive spirit. And that's what you have to do, is find that mindset and find that spirit. So that's number one. Number two, you got to have a coach and or a program. Like Ellie's my coach basically here, and we coach each other. We're usually working out at about the same time. We both do the master's program, but we're often on different days and different workouts and stuff like that. But I'll stop and have her film me and take a look at something I'm working on, and I'll do the same thing with her. And, you know, we'll compare notes and things like that. Like, how did that work for you? What did you do? You know, so it's kind of a collaborative process for us at this point.
Totally.
But, you know, we've been together for 10 years doing this thing, right? So, you know, it's an organic process for us. But if you don't have a coach and you're just trying to, you know, oh, I'll take some of this and some of that, it isn't going to work.
Definitely. Totally.
You have to follow a program. And I'm in love with the Invictus programming. Okay. And we use your regular programming here in the gym. I got all kinds of people that love it. I had somebody went to another gym this summer for some various reasons. And they're like, yeah, I don't know what kind of program they got. I don't know what they're doing. It's not clear. We don't understand it. You know, I can't wait to get back and get in here because it works. Right. And it follows a cycle, and, you know, you can't just go at level 10 every day. You can't just, you know, only do squats, heavy squats. You gotta do a little bit of everything, especially for CrossFit, right? You know, if you're a bodybuilder, that's different. If you're a power lifter, that's different. But
totally,
even if you were a power lifter, you got to have a program, right? To get what you need to get, right? So number one, mindset. Number two, get a program, get a coach. Okay. And number three, find the joy in the process.
Yeah.
If you don't enjoy the process, then why? Who wants to do this, right? And that's one of the problems. Like when I came back from the games this year, like, you know, I'm tired. You know, you got to and I have to find the real joy in working out again. And so I started squatting a little bit, and, you know, and it took about 2 weeks before I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm good with this now. I'm back. I feel the the excitement and the, finishing a nice set of heavy squats and stuff like that, where I feel a sense of accomplishment rather than like I'm just beating myself up.
Yeah.
So yeah, mindset, get a coach in a program, and then enjoy the process. Because if you don't,
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's spot on, John. All of those points, just very spot on. And the joy piece, I mean, that's the motivation, right? Like, why am I doing this? Am I being motivated by, intrinsic motivators versus extrinsic? And what are those motivators? And having a really clear idea, because it's hard. The middle of the season, it's hard, grueling.
Oh, yeah.
And so knowing your why and having joy with it, like, that's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. Oh, awesome. Okay. Do you have any other pieces of advice, or what are you like? What's helping you stay motivated for this long period of time?
Well, I enjoy being fit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And some it's a little bit prideful or hubristic, if you will. It's not just okay, I'm in a top 10 of fit 65-year-old guys in the world, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. But when I look out at the overall population,
the
ability that I have to move and do all the things that I'm doing every day is so far above my age group, my peer group. I mean, it's not even in the same universe in a lot of ways. I had one of my clients who's 55-ish, had to do his stress test. He had some kind of anomaly going on. So he did a stress test this morning, and the average, 55-year-old guy, 7 or 8 minutes on the stress test. He went 12, and he could have gone longer, right? And he's like, he said, I didn't think I was in that good a shape, but apparently compared to the average, I am like, and so that's part of it for me. It's like, I enjoy doing a whole lot of stuff, outside. Yesterday, I had to break some concrete up out back, because we're putting in a new platform and stuff like that. So I got a sledgehammer out, and I'm banging away on a pile of concrete, like, it's the prison yard, working for the chain gang, and and I can do that. And I'm doing that for an hour, dripping with sweat, and concrete flying everywhere, but I can do that, right?
Yeah.
And that's my motivation, right? I mean, I got married in 2019. I got stepkids that are 12 and 10. I got to run around with them. We're out in front playing volleyball, because fifth graders are starting to play volleyball. So we're learning some of that stuff. And, I got grandkids that need, attention. And, it's just, there's all of that. That's really the motivation. The motivation for me really is not to be the fittest guy, 65 plus guy in the world. That's not, I mean, if I go again, do I want to win? Yeah. I mean, that's the way we are, right? But that's the competitive nature. But really the true motivation is being as fit as possible. Being able to walk through the airport, suitcase in each hand, and walk for a mile in the airport and do it fast because you got to hit the next flight, right? That's important to me, right? Yeah. Being able to, slap on a scuba tank and go scuba diving is important to me. Totally. Going out in my garden and working in my garden in 105-degree weather and not feeling the effects of that, or having to, so I can't do it, I'm too old, or any of that crap. No, I mean, that's not what motivates. That's what motivates me, is to be able to do all that stuff that I want to do in my life, right? I mean, I love doing CrossFit, and I love, doing jiu-jitsu and all the rest of the stuff. But that's not the reason that I'm doing this. The reason I'm doing this is to be as fit as possible, and also to kind of prove something to the rest of the world that it's possible. That what you think is the norm does not have to be the norm. That does not have to work. And, you know, people say, oh, you're so disciplined and this and that. Am I disciplined? Yes. Okay. But there's freedom in discipline, right? Because now I have the freedom to do all the stuff I want to do. And if I didn't have the discipline to get up in the morning, to eat right, to, you know, watch my sleep and all the rest of that stuff, then I couldn't do those other things, right? And that's where the freedom really lies, because I'm not, you know, stuck on my couch or on a chair because I'm infirm or, you know, I don't feel right or, you know, tired or any of that, the rest of that stuff that we hear older adults complain about, you know, and talk about. I was doing something the other day. I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to be able to do 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
Definitely.
Peter Attia in the book Outlive is, you know, they're talking about the centenarian decathlon. You know, what do you want to be able to do when you're 100? What do you want to do when you're 80? If you want to do that when you're 80, you got to be able to do this stuff right now.
Yeah.
You know, you want to climb Kilimanjaro now, then you got to do a bunch of stuff before that, right? You can't just show up and expect to climb a mountain. You got to work for it, right? And that's my motivation is not only to do the things that I want to do, but also to show anybody who wants to see it that it's possible. And you don't have to, no matter what shape you're in now, it's just like the Chinese proverb, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time, right now. Same thing with your fitness, right?
Yeah.
You should have started 20 years ago. You didn't.
Yes.
Get started now, right?
I know. It's so true. Like even, you know, friends of mine and stuff, it's almost like that who aren't, you know, very consistent with fitness. It's like this resignation, like, oh, I'm this age, so like, of course I'm going to get injured. Of course I'm not going to be able to do this. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. There's this resignation because you're not like leading a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
And so you don't have to do that though. It doesn't mean just because you're getting older that you're going to have these health issues or your body's not going to be able to play sports, things like that. It's like, no, it's because you stopped doing that for so long, but it doesn't mean that you can't start doing it again and keep it up. You know, it doesn't have to be this like decline, you know, but that is the norm for the idea that a lot of people have.
People have accepted that, right? Yes. As, oh, I don't have any choice. It's just the way it is. I'm 40 years old. This can happen. 50 years old, this happens, right? And does some of that stuff happen? Yeah, I got to wear these, you know, stupid freaking, you know, I can't see very well sometimes. And some stuff does happen, right? I get it, right? And am I the same, you know, athlete or the same person I was when I was 25? Absolutely not, you know, and thank God, right? Because I actually wasn't very disciplined and I wasn't, you know, all that fit when I was that age, right? I'm probably in better shape physically. Can't do some of the same things, right?
Yeah.
There are some things you do there. I mean, there's a reason why there aren't any 50-year-old NFL wide receivers, right?
Oh, yes.
Or even 40-year-old ones, right? I mean, past 35, because certain things do happen to you, but you do not have to accept what we consider the norm, right?
Yes.
You know, it's not normal to take, I don't think it's normal to have 6 prescription medications because you're 60 years old.
Yeah.
I don't have any. And so when I go to see a doctor or something like that, and they're like, okay, medications, I don't have any. Wait, what are you taking? I'm like, nothing, 0. Right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. And they're like, you're not on statins, you're not on this, like, you know.
Yeah. And it's not to say some people have, you know, genetically predisposed to things but it's like you said, it doesn't need to be the accepted like norm.
Right.
You know, that's what CrossFit has been able to do. It's to show that, you know, age doesn't define what your fitness level is.
Right.
And, you know, it's just been a really incredible thing to see, especially them allowing the 65, doing a new age division, the 65 plus. When was that? 3 years or 2 years ago? Was it post-pandemic or prior to pandemic?
It was post-pandemic. They had because
It was just 60
I was
plus.
64, so that would have been in 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Hip and Steel, I think, won it that year.
Yeah.
In the top 2 or 3. But
yeah. So it's just incredible to see, and such a motivation for so many people to see what is possible.
Right.
Yeah. And you're doing an awesome job of that. You're one of the leaders in that, John. And it's been an absolute privilege to work with you and to get to see you at games. It's always a joy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to even, just sit down and chat with me.
Any other questions? I mean, I don't know if we covered everything or not. But
yeah, we did. That was super awesome. Really, really thorough, and getting to know you a little bit more.
Like this whole LSD thing, right? So, I took it on and all that, and I've had a number of clients taking it on, and one of the guys is a very good rower, right? So he's got an erg in his bedroom. I mean, he's like that guy, right? And he's Dave he's a doctor, very well known, and he's a big rower, and he's like, this thing has just changed everything for me. He showed me a workout on his polar thing, because you can see where the thing is.
Yeah.
He did a 1 hour row. Okay. He averaged 215 per 500. His heart rate was between 123 and 130.
That's awesome.
The whole time.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And he said, I worked at, I did something else, worked at, so they were doing time trials or something. I was working up in the 150, 160. I could maintain 150, 160 heart rate. No problem. I never felt out of breath. I could still talk. I could, and that's what this thing does when you work at it consistently, right?
Yes.
Not just once in a while and being, mindful about it, because he is, right? And then but now he said the other day when he was here yesterday, he said, but now I realize I got to get in here more because I got to get stronger.
Totally. Yes, definitely.
So,
but that is great. And for him to be able to maintain that heart rate for an hour at that pace, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
I'm seeing so much benefit, not just, in the CrossFit space, but also just in the overall health space.
Yeah.
People, being, and then going out and doing the stuff they want to do. I mean, we've had 2 guys this summer climb Kilimanjaro.
Cool. Amazing.
In their late 50s, early 60s. 2 last summer, and, they're doing it without oxygen. They're doing it, in a timely manner. I mean, it's not like somebody's carrying up the mountain or anything. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
All this LSD stuff, that's what lays the base down. So
yeah.
We talked to Chris Hinshaw last year about this thing, and he said this is the biggest secret in CrossFit. He said everybody's doing this. The big names are all doing this, but it's not sexy. Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, because what are you going to do? Post? Oh, I ran a real slow conversation pace for an hour.
Yeah, I ran a 12-minute mile.
Yes. Yeah. But it's huge, huge, huge. That's awesome. I'm so glad that you've been incorporating it a lot more, especially at the right time too, off season, to add that into your training. Because it does take a chunk of time.
Oh yeah, it does. And the other thing too, so since the games, every Saturday we're running a 5K here.
Awesome. I love it.
And because we did it and I did okay at it, but I realized that, we got to run a little bit more on more distances, not just 400s or 800s, but longer distances, and it's hard to program that in on a regular basis. So we just started doing it every Saturday.
That is awesome. Yeah. And a fun thing to do with everybody.
Right. And if you maintain that zone 2 pace, then you can have a conversation with somebody,
Totally. Totally. Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you, John. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Tell Ellie bye for me.
I will. Yeah, she's out coaching class right now. So
awesome. Cool. Thank you. I hope you enjoy training in your 5K tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we will. And we're doing our celebration tomorrow. We got out, and we got some food companies coming, and we got a women's health doctor is going to talk about pelvic floor stuff and menopause.
Awesome.
Another doctor is going to talk about back pain and exercise management and back pain, and some stuff about Outlive as well. And yeah, it's going to be quite a good event, and free community classes, and also, and we're going to do, I got all this gear and stuff from the games, like sitting in closets and shit, right? And I'm like, I'm going to auction it all off. I'm going to send it to Lahaina.
Oh, that's awesome. That is great.
And we're going to do the Imua, the workout that they did at CrossFit Lahaina last week.
Yes.
2 weeks ago. Yeah, so we're going to do that workout as well.
Awesome.
Which I think you guys programmed last week. Or
Yeah.
8-round thing. Yeah. So we're going to do that tomorrow for all 3 classes. So
that is awesome. That sounds great. Send me some pictures.
Okay, we will. All right.
That would be great. Cool. All right. Bye, John.
All right. Okay.